things that are great and good about the economy as there are bad? Amen. It's not as bad as they're making it out to be. Yes, there are problems. Yes, our government's got issues. Biggest issue facing us right now is debt, $14 trillion worth of it, not now 16. Those issues are real. I'm not discounting those things. I'm just telling you that you and I are not subject to it. Amen. We operate in the kingdom of God. You know, every time the economy goes down, I've learned to do something with my companies. I get my people together and I say, here's what we're going to do. While the rest of them are having a recession, while the news media is going nuts, everybody's doing their thing, we're going to focus in our world. Here's our world. Here's where we live. We take care of our customers. We're going to get better at it. When we're in a recession and downtime, I take advantage of it by cross-training employees, send them to be educated. I invest in my assets. People are the greatest assets you'll ever have. And God spoke to me one time. This was the George Bush first recession. And he spoke to me, and everybody else contracts because you know why? They don't have a storehouse. They don't have any way to weather these storms. And so what God spoke to me to do, he says, if you'll keep these capacities and systems in place, on the other end of this recession, all the demand will come back and you'll be sitting ready for it. That's exactly what I did. Let me tell you something. The significant growth in global came 3 years after that recession. The first 3 years after that, listen, nobody could touch us. A lot of our competitors went out of business during the recession, closed offices and facilities, laid off people, and they're in retraction mode. So they're back, they're just trying to survive, and all of a sudden, boom, the demand comes back. They couldn't even think about doing it. You know where we are? Sitting on ready. Ready to go. In 1 year, our revenue went up over 40%. 40%. Went from a little $5 million a year company. And listen, I thought you know what? When we were doing $5 million a year, I thought, move over Bill Gates. Here I come. I thought I'd arrive. That was nothing where God was going. All of a sudden, we're doing 15 and 25 and 40 and 60 and 80. Boom, 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 boom. And once we put the things in place, once we put the systems and capacities in place, and we started building leaders in our organization and building teams down through the depth of the organization, reproducing ourselves and other people, this is where you build something. My business students are learning this big time right now. This is the way we do it. Guys, it's not done any differently in your finances. You can't do this by hoping and, I'll give a little extra this week and maybe God will, have grace and bail me out. Look, it takes effort. It takes time. Something you have to focus on. You have to be consistent with. You have to be persistent with it. Stay with it and you'll get there. Can I just tell you from experience, it's worth every minute of it? It's worth all the hard work. It's worth all the time and effort, research, all the things you have to do to be good at these things. But you and I can do it. And look, we're not all going to do it at the same level. I'm not suggesting that you go out and build a $100 million company that has 1,000 employees. Here's what I'm suggesting you do, exactly what God's called you to do, whatever that is. So you keep your investments simple, things that you can focus on and understand. Don't try to outperform the market. Don't chase after trends. Save money automatically, invest substantially in stocks, invest in funds with low fees, eliminate credit card debt, and practice tax deferment. You do those things and you can build wealth. Now, one of the things that I do is I invest in the stock market, but I control how I do it. Anybody ever heard of dollar cost averaging? Dollar cost averaging works like this. I send my stock guys the same amount of money every month, and they buy stocks with that money. And so when the stock market goes down, here's what the conventional wisdom out there says to do. When the stock market does what it's been doing here recently, stop, pull all your money out, quit. No. Watch this. If I'm buying stocks at $10 a share this month, and my guy bought me 100 shares, and I'm sending him the same amount of money every month, and I come over here, and that $10 stock is now $3, it's on sale. This month I'm sending the same amount of money, but now I'm able to buy 3 or 4 times the same number of shares. But you got to be in it for the long term. That's dollar cost averaging. You can't knee jerk. You can't call Sister Sally and Aunt Ruth and say, what should I do? Aunt Ruth is likely not going to know. You stick with it. I started investing in indices. You know what indices are? Standard & Poor's, for instance. The Russell 2000. These indices over a period of time, that's what the 11% that I've gained was through the S&P 500 since 1982. There was years when it was down. There was years when it's up. So if you know anything about the stock market, here's what they do. They judge fund managers by how well they do against the S&P 500. They're a good fund manager if they beat the S&P 500. You know how many of them beat the S&P 500? Less than 30%. Less than 30%. So 70% of them don't. You think you might be hooked up with one of the 70%? And if you're not, you've got to know who that is every year. You've got to know who's missing it every year. So it's easier and simpler for you and I who are we're not experts in the stock market, don't have time to be. Now you may be, I'm just talking about us generally. So what ought you do? Pick an S&P 500. That's the standard they're working against anyway. So over a 25 or 30 year period, I've made 11.2% while they're out there fighting with each other over who's beating the S&P 500. Does that make sense, or is that clear as mud? I'm not telling you to do these things. I'm trying to give you ideas for how you can invest assets. And here's another thing. Doing these things like funds, bonds, you can play at a smaller level. You know, I got a good friend in Atlanta. He'll be here teaching in the business school. He's one of the best investment managers in the country. He's on Fox News all the time. Y'all know him. Everybody ever met him? Scott Kays comes to the ministers conference every year. Scott is he's a great investor. Understands the stock market very well. You got to have $500,000 to play with him. So, there's not very many of us that can do that. So what I'm saying to you is find ways to invest at your level that make sense, that you don't have to take a tremendous amount of risk, but that bring you steady income, and leave it alone. Let it build. This is the way you build wealth. Okay, how much time we have? About 5 minutes? Great. All right, eliminate debt. I'm going to do what I can in 5 minutes, and then we'll pick up in the next session. Eliminating debt. Y'all like my little guy with the ball and chain? This is the way I feel about debt. I've seen debt's destroyed more people than any other thing in finances. So debt is something we need to eliminate. 7 steps to eliminating debt. Let me just say this before I start. If you do these 7 things, I dare you to stay in debt. You can't do these things without getting out of debt. It's impossible. Number 1, make a commitment to create no more debt. If you don't do number 1, don't even bother with the other 6. But I've seen people do this. I'm sorry. I've seen people do this. They won't make a commitment to create more debt. They're trying to get out of debt while they're creating more debt. They don't make any sense. You got to stop the process. No more credit cards. No, let me just say this. Credit cards are interesting. They'll put you in the poorhouse really quick. In my opinion, they're usury. The Bible speaks very clearly about usury. Okay? And so, these things are evil. So here's what I suggest you do. And I've had people come up to me and say, well, I can't rent a car and I can't do this and I can't do that. Yes, you can. If you can't do anything else, you can use a charge card or a debit card. There's a difference between a charge card and a credit card. I've got an American Distress card right here in my pocket. That's a charge card. American Regret, whatever you want to call it. I put stuff on it. Every month it has to be paid off. No interest. That's a charge card. They'll take it at the airport when you rent a car. Trust me. Now, here's what I'm going to let you do. Take all your credit cards. And I'll be honest with you, I can't believe how many credit cards some people have. It's amazing. 2 and 3 MasterCards. You'd think MasterCard would catch on at some point. So here's what I suggest you do. Take all of your credit cards, destroy them all, cut them up, do some plastic surgery. Cut them all up except for one. Pick one. This is your emergency. I'm giving in to your flesh for here just a little bit. Just stay with me. You can keep one. But here's what you got to do with it. Take it home Y'all remember those old 1 pound tin coffee cans? Get you one of these coffee cans, put the credit card in there and fill it up with water. Stick it in the freezer and freeze it. Take it back out of the freezer and punch a hole in the bottom of it and put it back in the freezer. Now, several weeks later, when you're sitting in your living room and the shopping demon comes and sits right here. Let's go to the mall. Let's go. They're having a sale at TJ Maxx. Let's go. JCPenney's, they're having an 80% off sale. They jacked it up 400%, but it's 80% off. I mean, that thing just all right? All right, look, fine. Just give in to it. Go in there into the kitchen and get that can out, right? And just look at it. You can't put it in the microwave because it's made out of metal. You put it in the oven, it's going to melt and water's going to run out and ruin the element in your oven. You ain't going to do that. So just set it on the counter and wait for it to thaw out. By the time it thaws out, demons are impatient. He'll go next door and get the woman next door and get her to go shopping, and you'll be done with it. That's what you do, guys. That's how you deal. If you're just going to give in to your flesh, put some ropes and chains around it. Put you a fence around your flesh. Don't use credit cards. Just, and I know, look, you say, I don't know if I can do that. Just work toward it. Work toward it. And we're going to show you specifically how to do that, okay? Now, we got about 1 minute left. Here's what I want to do. Make a commitment to create no more debt. Formulate your plan, and I'm going to help you do that. We're going to do that in just a moment. Start now. Success depends on taking action. Accept personal responsibility for your debt. No, it wasn't your wife, wasn't your kids, wasn't Aunt Sally. Nobody did that to you. Say, I did it myself. Yes. Focus on the details of your plan. Obey the disciplines of your plan. Persevere in the execution of your plan. 5, 6, and 7 is where 90% of people fail. Focus on the details. Obey the discipline and persevere in the execution. Keep doing it. Stay after it. You will get out of debt. And you'll get out of debt in a lot shorter period of time than you think you will. Let me ask you a question. If you can get out of debt in 5 years, how many of you understand that 5 years is going to go by whether you get out of debt or not? You might as well get out of debt while it's passing. Isn't it amazing things we justify in our minds? This is what we got to do. Okay, we're done for this session. We'll pick it back up here. What time do we come back in? 10 past. Y'all be back at 10 past. We love you guys on the internet.